My wife texted me, "I'm at my sister's, don't wait up." I looked at the phone, knowing exactly where she wasn't. So I replied, "I'm not alone either." 30 minutes later, the front door slammed open. She stormed into our kitchen, panicked and angry, only to find me and her sister calmly cooking. The look on her face when I turned and asked, "So, how was your date?" That was priceless. This wasn't just a simple gotcha. This was the end of months of lies and the beginning of the end of our marriage. You want to know how I knew? And what happened after she was caught? This is the story of the 30-minute alibi. Stay tuned. And if you love stories about deception and satisfying justice, make sure you subscribe, like, and comment on the Inspiration Seeker channel. You won't want to miss what happens next. Living in Naperville, just outside the Chicago skyline, our life looked perfect from the outside. We had the classic split-level house, the 2-car garage, the dual-income careers. I'm a data analyst. My entire life revolved around finding patterns in chaos, making sense of numbers. And Jessica, she works in high-stakes public relations right in the loop. We were that couple, the one everyone on the block wanted to be. But inside that house, the silence was deafening. The marriage, it had been running on fumes for months. It wasn't loud fights or slammed doors. It was worse. It was the routine. It was the shared calendars, the robotic, polite, "How was your day?" inquiries where neither of us actually listened to the answer. The real doubt, the first little crack in the foundation, it didn't come from a late-night text or lipstick on a collar. It came from her performance review. Ironic, right? She left it on the kitchen counter one evening, glowing about a recent promotion. I read the summary. Her firm praised her for unprecedented client dedication and countless hours of off-site engagement. It all sounded great, until I cross-referenced those dates with our shared calendar. The nights she was schmoozing clients were the nights she told me she was buried in paperwork at the office. This new dedication started exactly when her new manager, David, arrived. David, charismatic, slick, the kind of guy who wears a $2,000 suit, like it's a t-shirt. When I asked her about it, she got defensive. "It's just work, Mark. You wouldn't understand the pressure." But the real flag, the one I couldn't ignore, was the phone. Her phone used to be communal property, lie on the counter, used for Spotify or looking up recipes. Now it was a fortress, screen down. Always, she'd angle it away from me on the couch. She started taking urgent work calls in the master bathroom with the fan on. I'm trained to spot anomalies. And my wife, she was a walking, talking anomaly. I didn't want to believe it, but the data was piling up, and I just knew I was being lied to. I just didn't have the proof. Not yet. The late nights at the office, excuse started to wear thin, even for Jessica. She knew I was skeptical. As a data analyst, I live on patterns, and the pattern of her overtime was becoming sloppy. It was too frequent, too predictable. So the narrative shifted. It was subtle at first, but then it became the new normal. The new alibi was Chloe, her sister. Suddenly, Chloe was going through a really bad breakup. It was the perfect cover story. It was emotionally bulletproof. How can you question a husbandly duty when your wife needs to support her wreck sister? At first, I bought it. Of course. I felt bad for Chloe, and honestly, I felt guilty for having been suspicious of Jessica. See, I told myself, it was just work stress after all. But then the Chloe alibi became a recurring event. It was a standing appointment. Tuesday night. Chloe's a mess. I'm bringing over wine and ice cream. Friday night. Taking Chloe out, trying to get her mind off him. Even a Saturday afternoon. Chloe needs help packing up her ex's stuff. It became a wall. Every time I suggested we reconnect. Every time I planned a date night. I can't, Mark. Chloe really needs me. The thing is, I like Chloe. She's always been a grounded one. The one who calls things as she sees them. And this emotional wreck persona, it just didn't fit the woman I knew. The data wasn't adding up. The frequency was too high. The details too vague. So, one Wednesday afternoon, I did what I should have done weeks ago. I stopped analyzing and just gathered the data. I sent Chloe a text. I kept it simple, playing the role of the supportive brother-in-law. Hey, Chloe. Jessica's told me how rough things are. Just wanted to say I'm here for you both if you need anything at all. I stared at the screen. The 3 little dots popped up and then disappeared. A minute later, my phone rang. It was her. Hey, Mark, she said. Her voice was perfectly normal. A little confused. Maybe, hey, Chloe, just checking in. How are you holding up? There was a pause. Holding up? I'm fine. I'm actually just leaving the gym. What's this about? My stomach tightened. The breakup, I said, trying to keep my voice casual. Jessica's been, well, she's been spending almost every night with you for 2 weeks. I just want to make sure you're okay. Another pause. This one was longer, heavier. Mark, Chloe said, and her voice dropped. I haven't seen Jessica in 2 weeks. And my ex? We broke up 6 months ago. I'm actually on my way to the 3rd date right now. Clack. That was the sound of the final puzzle piece locking into place. It wasn't just a lie. It was a conspiracy. She wasn't just deceiving me. She was using her sister as a shield. The doubt, it was gone. It was replaced by a cold, hard certainty. And that certainty, it felt like ice in my veins. That phone call with Chloe changed everything. It was the catalyst. The abstract data points, the late nights, the guarded phone, the performance review suddenly had a face. And it was a face of pure deception. After we hung up, I just sat there in the kitchen, the silence of the house pressing in on me. The perfect life, the perfect marriage, it all felt like a set, and someone had just pulled back the curtain. An hour later, my doorbell rang. It was Chloe. She didn't wait for an invitation. She just walked past me, her keys still in her hand. Her face was pale. She wasn't the confused, gym-going girl from the phone call anymore. She looked betrayed. Mark, she said, her voice low and furious. She's using me. She's using my breakup, my months-old breakup, as a cover story. Who does that? I just nodded, pouring her a glass of water, which she ignored. She's been doing it for weeks, Chloe. I thought it was me. I thought I was going crazy, being the paranoid husband. No, Chloe said, shaking her head as she paced the kitchen floor. No, you're not crazy. You're just married to my sister. She finally stopped and looked at me, her eyes hardening. I don't know who she is right now, Mark, but I'm going to find out. I'm not letting her drag my name to the mud to cover whatever this is. That was the moment. The dynamic shifted. It wasn't me versus Jessica anymore. It was us versus a lie. Chloe, it turns out, is far more direct than I am. While I was busy building spreadsheets of suspicious incidents, she was already scrolling. She's not just lying to you, Mark, Chloe muttered, her thumbs flying across her phone screen. She's lying to everyone. She thinks she's so smart. What are you doing? I asked, checking her socials. Her friends. The work friends. Uh-huh. She turned the phone around. It wasn't from Jessica's feed. It was from a junior associate at her firm. A group photo posted last Friday, a night Jessica was supposedly at Chloe's, drowning her sorrows over her ex. But she wasn't at Chloe's. She was at a rooftop bar at the London house. The city lights glittered behind her. She was laughing, her head tilted back, and standing very close next to her was David, her new boss. His hand was resting, quite comfortably, on the small of her back. The post had been deleted, but not before Chloe had screenshotted it. So, Chloe said, looking up from the screen, her voice cold. She is busy, just not with me. We looked at each other. We did not have to say anything. We had our proof. Now we just needed a plan. For the next week, we did nothing. That was the hardest part. I had to go back to being the normal husband. I had to sit at the dinner table, making small talk about mortgage rates and a leaky faucet, all while that digital photograph of her and David was seared into my brain. Every love you she threw at me on her way out the door felt like a paper cut. Chloe and I talked daily, strictly over text. We were waiting for the right moment the right lie, and it finally came. It was Thursday evening. Jessica was on her laptop, looking overly stressed. Ugh, she sighed, rubbing her temples. Chloe is having a total meltdown again. She wants me to come over tomorrow night. Just a whole girls' night. Movies, junk food, the works. I guess I won't be home. I looked up from my own laptop, my heart starting to pound a low, steady drumbeat. I kept my face blank. Oh, is she okay? Do you need me to grab anything for her on my way home tomorrow? No, Jessica said a little too quickly. No, it's fine. It's just sister stuff. I'll probably just head to her place in Lincoln Park, right from the office. I'll be late. Don't wait up. All right, I said, turning back to my screen. Tell her I hope she feels better. The trap was set. Friday came. The whole day at work, I couldn't focus. The numbers on my spreadsheets just blurred together. I went home at 5 p.m. on the dot. The house was empty. At 6:30 p.m., Jessica's car was still gone. She was at the office. At 7 p.m., my phone buzzed. The text that was supposed to arrive didn't. She was getting sloppy. She must have forgotten to even send the Alibi text. At 7:05 p.m., a car pulled into driveway. Not Jessica's, but Chloe's. She walked in without knocking, carrying a grocery bag. She looked at me, her face set. Okay, she said, let's do this. She didn't even text me. I said, feeling a strange, hollow laugh bubble up. Of course she didn't, Chloe replied, setting the bag on the counter. She's already busy. I brought stuff for a deep dish pizza. From scratch. If we're going to do this, we might as well do something normal. It was the most absurd, surreal moment. Here we were, the betrayed husband and the betrayed sister, about to set a trap for my wife. By baking, we started rolling out the dough. The silence was thick, broken only by the clinking of bowls and the tick, tick, tick of the kitchen clock. We were just waiting. The pizza was in the oven. I just slid the heavy cast iron pan onto the middle rack. The timer was set for 40 minutes. 40 minutes of waiting. It was the most normal, domestic thing in the world, but it felt like I was setting a fuse. Chloe and I were sitting at the kitchen island, not really talking. What was there to say? We just listened to the hum of the oven fan and the ticking of the clock on the wall. 7:45 p.m. 7:50 p.m. 7:55 p.m. Maybe she's not going to text, I said, breaking the silence. Maybe she just dash. Buzz, buzz. My phone lit up on the granite countertop, vibrating against the stone. We both froze. It felt like a small grenade had just landed between us. It was Jessica. I flipped it over. The preview message was all I needed to see, but I opened it anyway. I had to see the whole lie, in its final form. Jessica, hey, finally made it to Chloe's. We're about to watch a movie and drink way too much wine. Just what the doctor ordered. Don't wait up. Red heart. I didn't say a word. I just slid the phone across the island to Chloe. She read it. Once. Then twice. I watched her knuckles go white as she gripped the edge of the counter. She didn't look sad. She looked disgusted. A heart emoji, Chloe whispered, her voice sharp. She's enjoying this. She's actually enjoying the lie. She pushed the phone back to me. Well, what are you going to say? I looked at the text again. Don't wait up. She was so confident, so comfortable. She was in her new life, with her new man, using her sister as a firewall. And I was just a guy at home, the afterthought. I picked up the phone. My fingers didn't shake. I felt strangely calm. When you're looking at a spreadsheet and all the numbers finally align, you don't get angry. You just see the answer. My thumbs moved. I was precise. I wasn't emotional. I wasn't accusatory. I was just factual. Mark, okay, thanks for letting me know. I'm not alone either. I hit send. The delivered receipt turned to read almost instantly. Chloe and I just looked at each other. Neither of us breathed. We were at the top of the roller coaster, right before the drop. Now, I said, glancing at the oven timer. We wait. Read. That one little word was glowing on my screen. In our silent kitchen, with the smell of baking pizza starting to fill the air. That one little word felt like a detonation. What do you think is happening right now? Chloe whispered, as if talking too loud would break the spell. I don't know, I said, but the thing is, I did. I could see it. I could analyze the data. She's not on a couch watching a movie. She's somewhere else. Right now, she's not in sweats. She's in a cocktail dress, probably at that new steakhouse in River North. The one she said was impossible to get a reservation at. She's with David. They're laughing, sharing an appetizer, feeling sophisticated and untouchable. And then, buzz. She glances at her phone, probably annoyed at the interruption. She reads my text. I'm not alone either. I know exactly what happens next, because I know her. Her first thought isn't, he knows I'm lying. Oh no. Her first immediate panic thought is, he's cheating on me. The paranoia of the guilty is a powerful thing. The hypocrisy is stunning. All that comfort, that smug confidence she had just a moment ago, gone, evaporated, replaced by a cold, adrenaline-fueled panic. Her mind isn't on the lies she told. It's on the betrayal she suddenly believes I'm committing. Who is he with? In our house? Right now, I guarantee she is scrambling. She's throwing her napkin on the table, stammering some excuse to David. A sudden emergency. Something with my sister. The irony is almost too much. She isn't racing home to apologize. She isn't racing home because she's caught. She's racing home to catch me. She thinks she has the moral high ground. She thinks she's the one who's been wronged. And in that beautiful, flawed, perfect logic, she took the bait. She thinks she's the hunter. She has no idea she's the one walking into the trap. We didn't speak after that. What was there to say? The message was out. The trap was set. We were in the after. The kitchen timer for the pizza was sitting on the counter, its digital numbers glowing red. 22:14. 22 minutes left. Almost in parallel with the 30 minutes we figured it would take her to drive home. For a long time, the only sounds in the room were the ticking of the wall clock and the low, electric hum of the oven. It was a strange, domestic countdown. Tick, tick, tick. I found myself opening the Find My Phone app. We'd share our location for years. For emergencies. I guessed as qualified. I tapped her icon. There she was. A little purple dot, moving. Fast. She wasn't at the steakhouse in River North anymore. She was already on the I-88, heading west, heading home. She's on her way. I said, my voice sounding unnaturally loud in the quiet. Chloe, who had been staring at her own phone, just nodded. I know. She held it up. A new text from Jessica had come through to her phone. Jessica, Chloe, are you okay? Mark is acting weird. Are you really at home? Chloe looked at me. She's checking her alibi. She's panicking. She wants me to lie for her right now. So, I said, what are you going to do? Chloe just stared at the message. Then, with a slow, deliberate movement, she tapped the Do Not Disturb button. I'm not going to do anything, she said, placing the phone face down on the counter. Let her wonder. And so we sat. The 30-minute drive. It's a long time to think. A long time to sit in silence with the one other person who knows the truth. Every car that passed on the street outside made my shoulders tense. Was that her? The smell of the pizza was rich now, filling the house. Cheese and oregano and roasted tomatoes. It was the smell of comfort, the smell of home, and it felt like a complete mockery. I watched the purple dot on my screen crawl along the highway. Naperville exit, right on Washington, left on our street. The oven timer beeped. Beep, beep, beep. It was a piercing, aggressive sound. The pizza was done. And right on cue, as I was reaching for an oven mitt, the heavy, rumbling sound of the garage door echoed through the floor. She was home. The garage door. That sound. It was like a starting gun. Chloe's eyes snapped to mine. I grabbed the oven mitt, my movements feeling slow, almost robotic. The timer was still beeping, an obnoxious, repetitive soundtrack to the entire charade. Beep, beep, beep. I heard her key slam into the lock of the door from a garage. It was an unnecessarily violent sound. She didn't even bother with the deadbolt. She just threw the door open, and it hit the wall with a thud that vibrated through the kitchen. Mark, her voice wasn't worried. It wasn't, "Honey, I'm home." It was sharp, accusatory. It was the voice of someone who had practiced the entire fight in the car on the 30-minute drive home. And then she was there, framed in the doorway, still in her sleek black cocktail dress and heels. Her face was flushed, her hair a mess in the drive, her phone clutched in her hand like a weapon. She was ready for war. She was expecting to find me, to find evidence. She stormed into the kitchen, her eyes scanning wildly, and then she just stopped. She stopped so fast she almost stumbled on her heels. Because the scene in front of her, it just didn't compute. There was no other woman. There was no clandestine meeting. There was me, holding an oven mitt, the annoying beep of the oven timer finally dying as I hit stop. And there, standing next to me, pulling a bubbling, perfect deep dish pizza out of the oven, was her sister, Chloe. Her alibi. Jessica just stood there, frozen, in the middle of our kitchen floor. Her mouth opened slightly. Her eyes darted from me to Chloe, back to me. The righteous fury on her face just dissolved. It melted away, replaced by a pale, sick, silent confusion. You could see the gears in her head grinding, trying to process the scene. This is not what was supposed to happen. She looked at Chloe, who was now calmly placing the pizza pan on a cooling rack. She looked at me as I was closing the oven door. "Chloe," she finally stammered. Her voice was barely a whisper. What are you?" She looked at me. I don't understand." The silence in the kitchen was deafening. All the adrenaline, all the panic, all the self-righteous rage she'd built up on that 30-minute drive had nowhere to go. It just evaporated, leaving her looking small and ridiculous in her expensive dress. Jessica just stood there, a statue in a cocktail dress. The silence was excruciating. It stretched. The only sound was the ticking of the wall clock and the faint hiss of the hot pizza pan cooling on the rack. She was processing. You could see her mind racing, trying to find an angle, an escape route. She was desperately trying to rewrite the narrative in her head. Her eyes darted between us. "Mark," she tried again, her voice shaky, attempting to find some righteous anger. "Mark, what is this? You said you weren't alone." I was worried. I thought." "You thought what, Jessica?" The voice wasn't mine. It was Chloe's. Chloe hadn't moved. She was leaning against the counter, her arms crossed, her face hard. All the warmth she usually had was just gone. "What exactly did you think?" Chloe asked, her voice dangerously quiet. I thought he was with someone," Jessica said, grasping at the one straw she had. "He said he wasn't alone." "He wasn't," Chloe said. "He was with me. We've been here for almost 2 hours." Jessica just stared at her. But my text? "I texted you, you didn't." "Oh, you mean this text?" Chloe said. She calmly picked up her phone from the counter, unlocked it, and showed the screen to Jessica. The unanswered, panicked message from the car. "Or, do you mean the text you sent Mark?" She didn't need to show that one. We all knew what it said. Chloe, I was..." Jessica stammered, the last of her fight draining away. The confusion was gone. The panic was gone. All that was left was the dull, gray color being caught. She looked from the phone to her sister, to me. She saw the pizza. She saw the 2 water glasses on the counter. She saw the 2 of us united. And she finally understood. She wasn't the one who had set a trap. She was the one who was in it. "You," she whispered, looking at me. "You and her, you set this up." I didn't say anything. I just watched her. I watched the woman I married, the woman I shared a life with, finally see the end of the road. There was no more data to analyze, no more patterns to find. There was just this, the ugly truth, smelling like oregano, right in the middle of our kitchen. She knew she was caught, but she was still wearing her party dress. She was still wearing her expensive perfume. She hadn't admitted why she lied. And that was the last piece I needed. She said it like we were the villains. You set this up. Not, I'm sorry. Not, I can explain. She was cornered, but she still wasn't broken. She was still looking for a way to make this our fault. The fault of the husband she'd been lying to and the sister she'd been using. I let the silence sit there for another long beat. I let her stand in it. I let her look at the pizza, at her sister, at me. I wanted her to feel the full, crushing weight of the lie she had built. I walked over to the kitchen drawer and calmly took out the pizza cutter. I pressed it into the deep dish crust, the crunch of the hard crust sounding incredibly loud in the silence. I cut one piece, then another. You were worried, I said, my voice perfectly level. I wasn't yelling. I wasn't crying. I was just done. I was a data analyst looking at a finished report. You raced home, breaking traffic laws, I'm sure, because you were worried. Jessica just stared at me, her arms wrapped around herself. She said nothing. You were worried, I repeated, that I was doing the exact same thing you were doing. I put the pizza cutter down. I turned and I looked at her. I really looked at her, not as my wife, but as the person she had become. The woman in the expensive cocktail dress, who smelled like a night out I wasn't invited to. The woman who had lied, so casually, so comfortably, for months. Chloe was right. Jessica wasn't just lying. She was enjoying it. I leaned back against the counter, crossing my arms. I looked at the woman who had just run 30 minutes in a panic to catch me. And then I asked the question. Chloe's been here with me for almost 2 hours, Jessica. We just made a pizza. I paused, letting the finality of it land. So, how was your date? She didn't have an answer. For the first time in months, Jessica didn't have a script. She didn't have an alibi. All that manufactured panic, all that righteous anger she brought home with her, it just imploded. She didn't yell. She didn't argue. She didn't try to lie one last time. She just deflated. She sank on one of the kitchen stools, a marionette with strings cut, and finally looked small. A stranger in a cocktail dress in a kitchen that was no longer hers. She just cried, but they weren't tears of remorse. They were the tears of someone who had lost. The tears of someone who had been checkmated. Chloe, she quietly picked up a plate, put a slice of pizza on it, and just left the room. It was her way of saying, "This is your mess, not mine." The aftermath was quiet, clinical. I filed for divorce the following Monday. My lawyer said it was one of the cleanest, fastest dissolutions he'd ever seen. She didn't fight. She didn't ask for the house. She didn't ask for a thing. She knew I had the screenshot. She knew I had Chloe. She had no data left to argue with. David? I heard through the grapevine. He was transferred to the West Coast. I honestly never thought about him again. He wasn't the problem. He was just a symptom. Chloe and I were good. It was weird for a while. You don't conspire against your own sister and just go back to normal. But we found new normal. We still get together for pizza, not at the house. I sold the house. We meet at a place in the city. We don't talk about Jessica. We talk about her dates. The one she's actually on. As for me, I live downtown now, in a high-rise in the Loop. I can see the city from my window. I still analyze data for a living. I still look for patterns. But I learned something from all this. Data points aren't just numbers on a screen. They're choices. They're lies. They're human. Oh, and that pizza? We never even touched it. By the time Jessica finally gathered herself, grabbed her purse, and walked out the door for the last time, it was stone cold. And honestly, so was I.